about 2.6 million electric vehicles have been sold across the world, led by Tesla, which has sold about 386 battery electric vehicles. And then you have VW and GM coming in later, and they are selling a mixture of battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid vehicles. Those are the ones that are rechargeable, where you have to put charging stations. But also what is most exciting is to say that for the mini electric vehicles, in China, for example, some are going for as low as $10,000. What does that mean for Uganda, and how do we position ourselves? With that, allow me to invite Mr. Tim Harrison. Mr. Tim Harrison is the Managing Director of Ionic Rare Earths Limited, a major shareholder in the Rwenzori Rare Earths Metals Limited, which is a Ugandan company, and has been instrumental in driving the development of Makutu since joining Ionic in February 2020. Tim has over 20 years of experience and an extensive track record in the mineral processing and hydrometallurgy across multiple commodities, including significant battery and technological metals experience, specifically roles in project development through studies and engineering and commissioning and operations. Tim is also a fellow of the Australian Institute of Mining and Metallurgy. Tim, if you're with us, please, can you come in?
Hello and welcome.
Thank you.
From Australia.
Yes, Tim, the floor is yours.
Your Excellency. Okay, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome from Australia. I'm going to talk to you today about the experience of Rwenzori Rare Metals, which is a private Ugandan company, of which Ionic Rare Earths is a major shareholder. The experience of Rwenzori in defining, exploring, and now working through the engineering phases to bring and develop the first rare earth mine in Uganda. Building a rare earth mine is not an easy exercise. It takes a lot of investment to get to the point where we are developing a mine. I think it's important for a wide understanding that in order to develop a mine, there's a number of key ingredients. The first is investors. Investors are continually assessing projects and exploration tenements globally. And in order to attract investors, in my opinion, and the opinion of Rwenzori and Ionic Rare Earths, Uganda needs to encourage investors to spend exploration dollars. It's very expensive and a time-consuming activity. We've been exploring as Rwenzori in the Makutu project for a number of years. And typically it takes about 7 years usually to develop a mine from first exploration into a producing asset. So it's important to encourage investment, but I would say encouragement in the way of making sure there's a framework in place to encourage mine development, mine ownership. And from that, Uganda will benefit with taxation and royalties, which will be a major output from developing a mining industry. It's also, I think, important to understand the cyclical nature of mining and specifically commodities. Mining is a cyclical industry. To build mines, investors need favourable mining acts, good commodity prices, and the ability to minimise risk. As the cycle fluctuates, the risk profile increases and decreases, but typically the investors are looking at higher hurdles to overcome those risk profiles. So if the government is a risk, and the government can be a risk by changing mining regulations and acts. So when talking about risk versus reward, it must be said that, it is imperative that in order for investors to spend money on exploration, that the rewards have to outweigh the risk. being honest, it should be said that earlier this year, when potential changes to the Ugandan Mining Act were publicly made, this had a very negative impact with regards to discussions that we have been having with regards to funding the development of the Makuutu project. Typically, investors and financiers got concerned. Having had minimal consultation in the process, we were surprised at the time. And since that time, we've been actively trying to engage and communicate the net impact of these changes across the public sector representatives. So let's just talk about the typical process in which a mine is developed. Of the numerous exploration tenements that are explored each year, only a small percentage, maybe less than 1%, will proceed to an operational mine. So that's a lot of money that's invested in exploration and discovery and development before you actually get to a producing mine. So in order to encourage that investment, the framework, the regulations need to be favourable to encourage investment. In order to develop a mine and to develop a mining industry, it's very important that the economic environment and the incentives are good to first attract exploration spending, then to retain and enable a greenfield exploration targets, which turn into defined resources. At that point, you start doing engineering studies, scoping studies, preliminary economic assessments, to pre-feasibility studies, which then enable the development of reserves and feasibility studies. And if you've still got an attractive and economic project at that point, a final investment decision where you are spending substantial amounts of capital in order to get to an operational mine. So that's the technical risk. Now we talk about the concern risk that comes with corporate risk. So corporate risk is greatly impacted when the changes are made to mining regulations, acts and codes. Normally, corporate risk starts to come into play when you're investing a lot of money in capital. But when you change mining acts, when you change regulations, that exacerbates the perceived corporate risk, which can then precipitate an environment or a point where the ongoing viability of a project and exploration can become unattractive. So it's important that technical risk and corporate risk is balanced. And we do that normally around the world by having stable mining jurisdictions and stable mining codes. When we're looking at the development of Makuutu, we are very fortunate that the project site itself has got exceptionally good infrastructure. The potential to develop Makuutu in some way is unlocked by the fact that there's exceptionally good infrastructure that's already available in the project area. This existing infrastructure means that when it comes to committing the capital investment on developing Makuutu, Makuutu has got a head start. So that capital reduction is likely to be substantial enough that we'll be able to bring in financiers and investors to help us fund the development of Makuutu. To obtain funding, however, we must be able to demonstrate the financial returns of Makuutu are greater than the investments available globally. That is, that when we are looking for investment money for Makuutu, we are competing with projects globally. Since we have been developing Makuutu and certainly our involvement as Ionic Rare Earths with Renzori, over the past 2 years, as a company, Renzori has completed over 12,000 metres of drilling and 700 drill holes across the 26 kilometres of mineralisation trend that we've defined. That's been a tremendous effort, and it's been enabled by the fact of an engagement of local service providers within Uganda. And this is the first step to building capacity within Uganda. So by the international investors coming in and spending money in Uganda, we are developing capacity, we're developing and providing jobs in the exploration space, which enables more drilling to be done in the future because there's more qualified individuals available to complete that work. So we're actively in the field looking at building capacity, trying to define the best project we can. In the past 2 years, in addition to the drilling program that we've completed, we've also completed a substantial amount of other work. Renzori has demonstrated our intent to facilitate training and development in the Ugandan mining industry and minerals industry. Albeit at a formative status thus far, we have worked step in step with the DGSM and other public organisations within Uganda. And we are continuing to work with a number of private service providers within Uganda in order to help us develop Makuutu to be the project that we expect it to be. And that is a long life producer of rare earths. So Rich talked earlier about what are rare earths. Rare earths are a suite of elements that are used more importantly today in the permanent magnets that go into the electric vehicle motors and also offshore wind turbines. There are a number of other applications in very key technical implements used in very niche applications. And so, you know, the forecast growth in rare earths is potentially very, very large, but it's not a given. And without the development of rare earths, the potential becomes that other technologies will be developed simply because the rare earths are not available. So it's going to be important that we develop the mines in a timely fashion and try and bring Makuutu to production. When looking at other programs that we've initiated around the project area, it's important to understand that we as Renzori have ambitions to be good corporate citizens. We want to contribute. We want to make the project and leave a lasting legacy within the project areas. So that comes in making sure that we are employing and practicing extremely high standards when it comes to environmental management, when the way in which we rehabilitate the mining areas and the rehabilitation of mined areas into future industries. Also very focused on implementing community programs that target education and health. And, you know, certainly the residents across the project areas, the districts that house the project area in Iganga, Mayugi, Bugweri and Bugiri would be familiar with the numerous public consultation sessions that we've had, where we want to talk and understand the issues from our stakeholders, but also make sure that they're getting the right information about what we intend to do with Makuutu. So it's important that we engage and be proactive in liaising with our stakeholders. So here we can see a number of the sessions that we've held that's engaged with various members of local government and at a national level within Uganda, along with the local stakeholders and local councils. Furthermore, with developing and building capacity within Uganda, the company has worked very closely with forming close relations with the DGSM. We've hosted visits from the DGSM for a number of occasions now, and we continue to look at programs whereby we can utilise and provide opportunities to bring DGSM members across and out to site, and where we can participate and share knowledge. So it's all part of a strategy to build capacity within Uganda. And in building capacity, we're actually providing a foundation for the company and the project to be able to source a predominantly Ugandan workforce into the future. So with the collaboration with the DGSM and also a number of service providers within Uganda, we're focused on building that capacity building that capacity and spending money within Uganda that enables the trickle down and a benefit for a wider demographic in Uganda. We're also currently completing our draft environmental and social impact assessment, community stakeholder engagement, which is around making sure, as I've mentioned previously, that we have the dissemination of the right information and that we understand the opinions and the concerns of the local population, but also that we understand the desires and the support that we have for the development of the mine. Just to finish up, this last slide here is some feedback that we as Ionic and Rwenzori Rare Metals would like to put forward. We think that in order to build a mining industry, you need to have mines. To get the money, we seek consultation and we want to be a partner with Uganda's public sector to collaborate and build an industry. Consultation is essential and forming a collaborative environment, and we seek to build sustainable mining, a sustainable mining industry within Uganda that provides the potential for economic prosperity within Uganda. And the aim really should be to create an environment where mining can thrive. And that really should be the aim of everything we're doing within building an industry within Uganda. And finally, just to finish up, I thank you. I thank the Ugandan Chamber of Mines and Petroleum for the opportunity to participate today. I'm hopeful that in 2022 I can be there in person next year to participate as Rwenzori Rare Metals and the Makutu Rare Earth Project moves towards a mining license application and the next step for Uganda's mining industry on a global stage. As an international investor, we've got great ambitions to build capacity in Uganda and to work together as partners to build an industry and provide an opportunity long term. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim, for such an enriching and knowledgeable presentation. The points are noted. I know the Minister and the PS are still online, so they have captured that. Allow me at this juncture to also invite Dr. Amit Tripathi.